I seek your wisdom. I just graduated college and I feel so lost. How do I become an adult?
To truly become enlightened, you must answer this riddle. He seeks an entry-level job to get experience, but he cannot get an entry-level job without experience.
That doesn't make any sense.
So you graduated college, it's summertime and you're living it up, but then what? Do you have a job lined up? Will you actually use your degree? And what about the whole housing situation? Rent, buy, or live with your parents? It's time to get on your feet, Millennials. So here to help is Realtor and National Credit expert and Linda Ferrari. Linda, so nice to have you back with me. I always like having you in studio.
It's such a pleasure, Tommy. I love being here. Thank you.
You know, a lot of Millennials, as I said right now, it's summertime and maybe they just graduated or they're just taking in the summer raise, so we're not really thinking further on down the line about getting a job. But I actually had a viewer reach out to me on Twitter and say, hey, I'm a millennial. I just graduated. I have a degree. I paid a lot of money to get this degree, but now I don't have a whole lot of job prospects. So what's your advice as someone that is a financial expert and is a realtor? What can we do to put ourselves in the best position to find a job, use our degree?
You know, I think that the number one tip that I would have for that is to really be sure of what you're looking to do, of what you want to do. Right. Be really clear on your objective and your goals. And I'm very goal-oriented that way. And stick it out. Really look for something that you want to do. There's a lot of great jobs out there, a lot of great careers starting out there. And, don't rush into something. Right. Because then you won't be happy. And, I've seen it firsthand with my daughter who, took a job because she thought she had to. Mm-hmm. It's one of the things they're stepping into this next phase of their lives. Right. And they have all these feelings and overwhelmment about, I have to do certain things. Right. And the bottom line is that you have a blank canvas right now. Mm-hmm. You can build and create anything that your heart desires. So stick to your heart and stick to your goals and, apply. Right. Apply for jobs.
The thing that I'm seeing as well is I see both sides of the spectrum. I see people that are just graduating right now and they're saying, well, hey, I have a degree, so I want this job up here. I want these benefits, I want this pay, and I'm not going to settle until I get that. Well, meanwhile, they have no income coming in, right. So they're living with their parents. They don't have disposable income. They're saying, I'm not going to settle for anything less. So is there a happy medium there for someone that doesn't have an income to just sit back and not do anything? I think that that's problematic as well.
It is problematic, and I think that you can't have that kind of, you can do what you want to do, but I think putting that kind of restriction on yourself really takes you out of the market. You can start at the bottom and build your way up in a very short period of time if you are really motivated and you love your job and, mm-hmm. and they give you the opportunity and you prove yourself to them. So I always say get into the field that you want to get into. Sure. Don't look at the salary when you're first starting out as much, because that could be an obstacle.
I think for me, in my perspective, I was very lucky to get a job before I graduated college. I landed this job. It was a lot of hard work. It wasn't handed to me. I found it and I fought for it. But for many millennials right now, I see them looking at it, and I see a lot of my friends doing the same thing where they're thinking, hey, I can't get in my field, so I'm going to take a job as a waitress, as a bartender. I can make some great income right now, and then later on, I'll move on and use my degree. But then 3 years down the road, 5 years down the road, they're still waitressing, they're still bartending. They get caught up in that world. They're not using their degree, and I think it's a real shame.
It is a shame, and that's why it's so important to make a goal and make a plan, and give yourself timelines. Sure. Give yourself timelines, and then, if you are going to take a job that's something that you don't want to do for your career, do it for a certain period of time, save your money, mm-hmm. put it aside, so then you can, take more time off to look for the job that you really want to have.
I think you're right. Getting in the field is what's most important, even if you have to start from the bottom, but get in your desired field and let yourself work up. I'm actually going to use a personal example here. My executive producer didn't start out as my executive producer. She started out as a director here at One America, and then she worked her way up to being my executive producer through hard work. But instead of taking a job at a restaurant or something else, she knew that she wanted to work in TV, and now she is where she is. So if you can do it, you just got to get yourself in the position, and you have to work hard for it, as everyone here at One America does. So I'm really proud of what our team has been able to do.
Yes. And you got to be hungry. You really have to want it, because there's a lot of people that would love to have particular jobs, and they'll give everything and do everything that they have to do to get that job, obviously, within reason. But you really have to be hungry.
The paper is not enough.
Grateful.
The degree is not enough. Many
Right.
millennials think that that's enough. Well, I have a piece of paper. It doesn't matter. There's a lot of people with paper out there right now. It's how you're going to outwork everyone. That's what's going to get you there. That's my personal example as well as my producer's example as well. Working your way there. All my producers have done that.
Right.
But I want to move on now to a bigger question, talking about millennials, renting, buying, leasing. When they're talking about moving out of the college dorms now, they're wondering, should I move back in with mom and dad? Should I rent? Should I try to buy a home? What's your advice for us?
Well, I think that their circumstances are a consideration. So if they have to, you know, move out, and because a lot of the graduates that I know and millennials that I know are basically really not living in the area that they would live and work at the same time, and so they're not going to move back home. You know, so here's the key. The key is that we go back to this one element with me, which is your credit scores and your credit. You know, when your landlords look at it, employers look at it. So it's one of the first things that you want to do and be proactive in doing is you want to take a look at your credit and see where you stand. And that way, when you go into rent a place or you go into apply for a job, you're at the strongest level that you can be at. You know, I think that it all depends on what your goals are. Are you someone that's going to stay around in this area? Or are you someone that's going to be moving around and traveling with a career that you're choosing for yourself as to whether or not someone should buy versus rent?
And you and I have talked about this at length before, and even before the show started, we talked about it, because it's a personal situation for me as well. So I rent an apartment right now. I pay a lot of money to rent that apartment, and you were telling me, hey, you're paying someone else right now. You could be paying a mortgage. But we talked about it. When you tell someone that's 22 years old, hey, you should be buying a home right now, we're really skittish. So how do we break the barriers down there? And should we start looking at buying homes at young ages?
I absolutely think that we should start looking at all of our options.
Right.
You know, there's a lot of options out there. Here's the perception. The perception is, with most of the millennials that I talk to in my seminars, basically it's out of the realm of their reality. They have no idea that they can buy a home. So until we show them and we point it out and you know, give them the steps and show them what the benefits are, they have no idea. So once they have that idea, they are empowered, they are excited, and you know, so the benefits of owning a home, for instance, would be all the money that you're paying towards your rent is going towards your principal. Sure. You're right. You pay rent and you are paying a mortgage, but you're paying somebody else's mortgage.
You're paying for
nothing. With principal, we know there's, you know, a return on investment. With, you know, rent, there's no return on investment. There's tax deductions. Sure. You know, people are getting these great salaries, you know, for their new jobs, and a tax deduction is very helpful, you know, tax credit.
That's something we need to keep in mind, and we don't have that much time left, so I want to get into the numbers, give something solid to look at. Let's talk about mortgages, talk about payments. What does it break down to?
Well, let's talk about an example of someone that I just sold a house to. So it was a couple, mid-20s. They were paying $1,600 in rent, which is kind of low for a two-bedroom in their area, and they had car payments and student loans. Sure. Once we showed them that they could buy a $350,000 home for $1,700 a month, which was just $100 over their rent payment, they were ecstatic. Not only were they, you know, getting the principal paid, they were getting the tax deduction, but they were also building their net worth. Right. You know, the equity and the appreciation over 10 years is a tremendous amount of money. I think on that house, we figured it out, was going to be like $247,000. So to me, that's a win-win if you are wanting to do that.
And it's nice when you have a couple, too, because they have that support there, because houses take a lot of maintenance, it's a lot of work. So something for me that's single, lives alone, it's hard to imagine myself owning a home. But you're right, when I think about my rent payment and the rent payment that I would have, or a mortgage payment that I would have, you really startled me with that, because I realized, wow, you're right, I'm paying a lot of money in rent. So it's something for millennials to keep in mind. Linda, I wish we had more time. It always goes so quickly, but thank you so much for being here, giving us some great examples.
Tommy. It's my pleasure.
Still ahead, some final thoughts. I'm Katie Steinle. You know how I feel about immigration, but this is bigger than that. My final thoughts are next. Keep it here.